Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far with FaZe Struggles continuing. Dashy's given his perspective on the age-old Simp versus aBeZy debate. He reckons right now it's a very easy decision indeed. And what does this mean for the future of the Tiny Terrors, especially because they've only won one event in the previous 2 seasons. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Plenty to dive into. First of all, just wanted to address this whole cheating situation. There's a bit of drama going down on this last night, as there is usually every day. Doug wasn't happy a couple of days ago with the fact that Infinity Ward won't even acknowledge the situation, the number of cheaters that are in the game, and Parasite's been trying his best over the last few days to expose some of the cheaters. Now, it turned out last night that Parasite was also exposing this guy ScummN, right? So, I don't even know, is it ScummN, is it just straight up Scum? Like, I don't know, you guys can make your perspective on that. But this guy was like a Warzone player, right? And now he's leading it up in terms of the ranked play leaderboards. He's been grinding it for a fair bit, and I think what Parasite was exposing last night is this guy has been knowingly playing with cheaters. He's not necessarily cheating himself, but he's been queuing up with other cheaters to play in the leaderboards. And, you know, okay, if you're not cheating, maybe that's a little bit different story to actually you download the hacks. But if you're literally teaming knowingly with cheaters and therefore getting wins as a result, there's a big debate to be had on whether that effectively constitutes cheating in its own right, and whether as a result there should be potential action from Infinity Ward, right? Because if Infinity Ward are there to ban the cheaters, which they should be doing technically, if you've been knowingly queuing with cheaters to gain SR, then, you know, obviously there's a debate to be had on that. And then he tweets out, "Don't hate the player, hate the game." So, I mean, I just thought this is pretty entertaining, to be honest. Since deleted it, and then Parasite deleted his tweet initially exposing it and said, you know, I think he learned his lesson, don't ever be part of the problem. So, I mean, yeah, that's that brief bit of drama, but still, I thought pretty spicy stuff. As we dive into this FaZe discussion, I wanted to mention this idea here from Mr. Math, because a while ago I talked about, okay, what if the online qualifiers were worth 5 points for a victory and the LAN event victories were still as it stands in terms of points, and what would that mean for, you know, the season standings? Would it be better or worse if that was the case? He comes up with the idea to have, instead of giving out points per series victory, giving out points per map victory. And this is an interesting idea. So let's say you win a series 3-2 online, you get 15 points, the other team gets 10 points, which, okay, there's a big debate to be had on this, whether this actually improves things, whether it doesn't, because, okay, let's say you're getting 3-0'd all the time, you probably, occasionally maybe get a 3-2 victory, you probably deserve to be lower in the standings than a team like, let's say, Vegas, that they'll go to, maybe they go to a lot of Game 5s and lose, for example. So it's an interesting idea. What he comes up with, and I think this is a good way to do it in terms of the balance between online and LAN, a qualifier map win is 5 points apiece, a LAN winners bracket map win is 10 points, and a losers bracket map win is 5 points. So he also didn't consider Major 1 pool play. So there's a big debate to be had on exactly how this should be done or what format should go for, but this is what it looks like as a result. So these are the current CDL standings as it is, with the point system as it stands at 10 points for a victory, pretty much no matter where you are. And then at the major you get points based on your placing, so top 8 is 10 points, top 6 is 20 points, etc, etc, top 2 is 50 points, then if you win, you get 65. So, you know, that's why the event winners have a 5 at the end of it, right, because they got 65 points for their victory, and that's why OpTic is still at a 0 at the end. So anyway, these are the current standings. Vegas are 140, Rokkr 160, Vegas and 9th quite clearly, and it changes a fair bit if we look at it from a map percentage, but it's far from substantial. It's quite interesting actually that OpTic dropped down from 2nd down to 4th here if you look at it from these numbers. Thieves 505, Toronto 490, OpTic will be 475. Vegas is still 9th with 260, and actually closer to the guys further behind them, but of course, you know, the guys further down, because they've actually won some maps this season but barely won any series, it's a bit more competitive, right, in terms of the race for champs. So it's interesting. I'm not sure I like this personally, just because I like there to be a lot of jeopardy when you go into a Game 5. Like, going into a Game 5 round 11, you really want that scenario to be very impactful, right? If you're playing an online qualifier and, you know, someone wins a Game 5 round 11, you're not too hyped if one team got 15 points, one got 10, because the team that lost thinks, oh, well, you know, we got 10 points, it's not the end of the world type thing. Whereas, you know, I think it's quite nice to have that all or nothing sense personally, just because it makes the games more interesting. It also restricts this idea, teams experimenting with map pools, right? You can't really go into a series against a lower seeded team. Let's say you're OpTic playing Florida or Guerrillas right now. You're not going to go in and play your best maps. You're going to try other maps out. But if you know know that you're gonna, you know, give them 10 points, if you're gonna potentially not have as good a result yourself, then maybe you can't afford to do that. So there's a debate. I thought it was an interesting idea, though, that I hadn't really seen thrown around before. And just to mention how things are sitting at the moment, Vegas versus Rokkr is a very interesting battle, because Vegas arguably could have gone 2-0 this week. If we look at their results, they went 3-2 against Subliners, they went 2-3 against OpTic. That would have been great in the points per map situation, but they get 10 points regardless. Rokkr also got 10 points this week with their results. Of course, they beat London and they lost to Boston in what might prove to be a critical series. So Vegas' next series are FaZe, Surge, and Rokkr. Now, Rokkr, of course, is an absolutely massive one. They will probably not beat FaZe, but honestly, who knows at this point? And Surge are probably beatable as well right now if you're Vegas. So I think they'll be pretty confident going into those final 3 games. Rokkr, however, they play Vegas, Thieves, and Toronto. So I would actually say that Thieves and Toronto are harder games for Rokkr than FaZe and Surge are on a, you know, kind of put together basis for Vegas, and then they play each other. So I mean, that's mega right, but as it stands right now, Vegas could well be within 10 points going into the major, and if they can get to that point, they might be starting in winners and Rokkr could be in losers. And if that is the case, then we have a really interesting situation on our hands. Speaking of FaZe, though, they've been struggling, and I just wanted to share this from the Dashy Friendly Fire podcast thing they did a couple of days ago, where they asked him the question, aBeZy or Simp? It's an age-old debate really that's been going around since the Black Ops 4 days, to be honest. Who's the better player? Who's the more impactful player? Both of the guys have different styles. aBeZy it's always kind of the 1-2 punch, especially in Cold War, you saw it. aBeZy was the first guy in, insane pure ability and aim, and, you know, first bloods is just ridiculous what he can do in the Search and Destroys. And then Simp would be the guy slaying hard, second guy in, would trade out aBeZy and then get one more. And I mean, it was insane how good these guys were, especially in Cold War, Black Ops 4 as well. But over the last few years, the debate has been there. Who's actually the better player? This season, there's obviously no contest that aBeZy is way more impactful as it stands than Simp. But Dashy says that even considering his entire career, he reckons it's still an easy decision.
I mean, well, no, yo, this gotta be worse than the AW. But no bullshit. Ace is down bad.
Sim dropped a .64, which I would not be surprised if probably the worst series ever played in ECDL.
Sim dropped a .64.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if the worst series ever played.
Damn.
What was that video?
Wait.
Yeah, he dropped .64.
This was dope.
I'm looking at stats right now.
Bro, who you taking? Simp or aBeZy?
Ooh, whoa. Okay, they're both nasty before to clarify, but I can't lie. I'm gonna take aBeZy.
Ooh, instant?
Yeah, because I don't know. I feel like aBeZy is just like what he does is just, you can't replace it. You know what I'm saying? The pacing, the tempo, the gunny. Just I don't know. Like for example,
Wait, hold on, Brandon. You remember you
shit,
said prime aBeZy, prime Simp.
Prime aBeZy, prime Simp.
I'm still taking A. I can't even front.
Okay.
I mean I think aBeZy, for example, at Champs, at BO4, no one talks about this, bro. This guy had a 1.3 grapple song. You know how insane that is, bro? This guy's flying in the hill with a 1. Bro, this guy is getting 2 minimum every single hill, every single break. Grab slam 3-piece.
Give me that. I'm out of here.
He's
That's
different,
streaks, huh?
and he's so good at S&D, bro.
He's
Simp nasty too, though. Like, it's not even like it's just like you're just comparing him to aBeZy. I think aBeZy is like, he's like one of one. Like it's like him, like Ant, you know what I'm saying? Kyler, like Simp. They're all in like their own like tier of like they're all kind of just unique, I guess, to what they do for their teams and stuff. But that guy's different for sure.
So I think it's been one of the big surprises of this year that Simp's numbers are just nowhere near what you would usually expect. I think on LAN he still has over a 1 KD. Like, he's still looking pretty good, but it's not quite the Simp we've seen of old, whereas aBeZy is the aBeZy that we've seen over the last few years. The only off year aBeZy had, really, was in Vanguard last year. He wasn't particularly good at that game. He obviously didn't like the game, and compared to, you know, Simp last year, I think was better than aBeZy. aBeZy was still alright, don't get me wrong, but he wasn't anything spectacular last year, and he said after last year's game, like, I'm never going to not play the game as much again, because he hated last year's game, Vanguard. I didn't really play much of it, and wasn't super committed, and he said, look, that's never happening again. I'm committing 100% going forwards, and it's obviously working out in his gameplay what he's having this year. So, I mean, this is, for example, back in the day, the kind of, well, duo or trio, I suppose, with Arcitys on E United and FaZe, and during those years, that was a debate, because Simp was always the guy that would put more numbers up, and to me, over the course of their careers so far, up until, not including Modern Warfare 2, I think Simp has been better on the whole. it's super close between the two. But in Black Ops 4, obviously, very clearly, Dashy says that aBeZy was great, but I think Simp was marginally better in Black Ops 4. You then go into Modern Warfare, I think Simp was probably marginally better in that game. Cold War, I think it's really a toss-up between them. And then, obviously in Vanguard, maybe Simp was slightly better, but it's tricky to say. They're in different roles, but over their entire careers, up until this season, I would say I would just lean it Simp's way. And that's why the conversation has been had the last few years. Who's the greatest of all time in 10 years' time? Is it still Crim? Is it still Scump, whatever you think? Or is it Simp? He's already a 2-time world champion. So that was the discussion a few months ago. 10 years' time, Simp's going to have like 4 or 5 rings, and he's going to be the greatest ever. But why not aBeZy, right? Because as it stands, aBeZy is very close to Simp and is clearly outperforming him so far this season. These are also what the Breaking Point rankings say over the last few years. This is Modern Warfare, Cold War, where Simp was number 1 both years. aBeZy was 3rd and 2nd. Last year, Simp was 5th in our rankings in Vanguard. aBeZy was 13th, which is maybe harsh, but, maybe putting him higher is revisionist history based on this year, because last year he wasn't great. This year he's number 1, I would say, so far in our power rankings. And we can see Cellium, Shotzzy, and actually Envoy is over the last, on average over the last 3 seasons, the 5th best player in the league, which is pretty impressive from him. But it's very interesting that Simp this year has not been the player that he has been previously. Obviously he had that .64 series the other day against OpTic Texas. You'd never see that before. And it's been interesting because initially at the start of the season he was playing a lot in the hard points, and I thought, alright, just get Simp out of the hill, put Slasher in the hill, Cell in the hill, and Simp can go back to slaying as he did. And he still has good moments and good series. He had a great map against Surge not long ago. But it's very few and far between, and it's surprising to see, especially because aBeZy is absolutely thriving in this game. And you would think that, Simp's style and aBeZy's style would continue to complement each other very well. And frankly, from a duo that is clearly aiming to be either the greatest duo ever or simply become the greatest Call of Duty player ever in however many years, one event win in 2 seasons is simply not going to cut it. And I do wonder what this means for the future of this team, for the future of that duo, because I know that Simp said back in Cold War that something crazy would have to happen for these guys to ever split up. But I don't think it's out of the question in the next 24 months, especially if these struggles continue in their respawns. Maybe they feel like, Slasher wasn't the right fit, get rid of him at the end of the season, bring somebody else in, see if that works, and maybe that does improve them. And look, Cell, Simp, and aBeZy are never going to be a bad trio, but look at these numbers. It's actually remarkable. These are, DNA 11 looks into this. Since Major 2, so since the event that they won against the top 8 teams, they're 9 in 18 in hard points. So that's not just against OpTic and Thieves and maybe Toronto, that's against those 3 teams, plus New York, plus Surge, plus Boston, plus Minnesota. All of those teams combined that you'd think they would at least be even against. Their 33% hardpoint win rate and their 25% control win rate, 4 in 12. They're 0 in 5 in their last 5 controls against the top 8 teams, and that was a game mode where Simp absolutely dominated in Cold War. He was the best control player, hands down, like a 1.3 on the year with ridiculous impact. So, look, you can talk about maybe they need a faster AR player or whatever they need, but, it's tricky to figure out why Simp is not doing as well as he was. And maybe as it stands, that's the key factor separating them from being where they were before and where they presently are. And, is this going to improve drastically? Since Major 2, that's a long time ago now, in February, these are their records against the top 8 teams. Not looking pretty, right? Now, what Simp does have in his first 24 series is almost the record for the career, best ever performances in your first 24 series. Miracles as 20 and 4, what a player, and then Simp is 19 and 5, but Ghosty in his first 24 series is right up there with the best ever, with Crim 6 and pretty much with Scump. 18 wins, 6 losses in his first 24 series as a pro. Very impressive stuff, but very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.